Okay, good morning, everyone. Welcome to this little session with picture poetry. My name is Roland Gudinge. I'm a picture poet, and I've taken the pictures that you will be seeing. And with me, I have Maria Collinder, who is an artist, an acrylic painter. You can see one of her paintings in the background there. She's also a teacher, painting teacher, and a healer as well. So she has an interesting profile, very much so. So the idea here is that I will show pictures and we will reflect upon them, Maria first, and then I will give my view perhaps. Just a few words about my background. I've been taking pictures since I was a little kid. Here's a picture of me with my first camera out in the nature and with my sister down to the right. She's perhaps more interested in the food we brought than the actual scenery. I'm trying to show something there. So, and I've been taking pictures mainly of the nature, and the pictures you will see in a second are from my big gallery, if you will. So let's start. We'll jump in with the first one here.
Yeah, so hello everyone, I'm Maria Collinder and from Sweden, and I'm going to respond to these pictures, and this is, I think, a magnolia, which is one of my favorite flowers. And for me, this is a lot of hope in this picture because it's budding, and they're very similar to budding lotuses, these flowers. So for me, it's like awakening process. That's what I feel we go through at the moment as well on Earth. Mm-hmm. We have to go inwards, and then after this, as you know, like all the turmoil stopped, I think we are going to bud or flower. So for me, it's a very nice picture of hope, actually.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm not sure I have to add so much to this one. It's one of my favorite pictures with the light. There's a lot of life. There's also a nice isolating blurry background, so you can, I mean, the buds are really highlighted here in the morning sun that you can also see partly. Okay, so I'll take next one. Let's see what that was. Oh.
Yeah, and this is like reflections, I feel. I mean, I can see it's a spider web, cobweb, and with a morning dew. But what's interesting, I think, when you see the composition is that you have this yin-yang, the lighting. So you have part dark, part light in every little drop, which is really interesting for me because I work with light, darkness, and the shadow sides and everything that implies. And this is for me like a picture of also togetherness, all the little people, you know, and maybe some central people in the middle driving the, you know, development ahead. And connected is like little drops here in between, and it could also be when I see it can also be, you know, like stages. So it's like a stages because there's a central pillar with all these little drops, and I get a feeling of different stages also in the evolution, rippling out. Maybe also like chakra system I could get the energy from. For me, it feels like a very spiritual picture, actually. Yeah.
Wow, thank you, Maria. Yeah, you see, this is very interesting for me actually to hear,
yeah,
to get feedback in this way. Yeah, it's a spider web, obviously, quite close, and I'm just amazed how beautiful patterns our Mother Earth can create, or does create all the time for us. And sometimes we have to get really close to see it, and sometimes we can see it from far, far away as well. And the pattern here with the central bigger ones taking the lead, if you will, and the yin and yang lightning was interesting to hear about. I totally agree now when I see it. Yeah, that's nice. Okay, moving on. It's going to be a mix here, so we'll see what's next. Okay, yeah.
Yeah, and this is like a shield, if you will, or scales. I mean, I see it's a tree trunk. But the first thing I get is like protection, the protective shield around the core. And you can also see, if you look at the darker shadow, it's like a picture of a bird as well, with a beak up to the right. And it's a little bit green on his head or her head. So it's a little bird hiding here in this shield, or this protective cover. And yeah, if we want to connect it to what's happening now, I can get the sense of, within this protective shield that we all need to have now, there's a bird of freedom waiting to burst out and break out. And for me, I think this process we're in now will make us have a bigger momentum ahead once it's done. You know, when the big wave of corona is blowing over, I think we will gain a momentum with all these little waiting birds bursting out and flying away.
Wow, thank you. Yeah, it's obviously a tree trunk with bark and some different nuances of the colors and grooves. It's a very rough surface, and it's aging, but also still growing and expanding. All right, so let's see. Speaking of aging.
Yeah. And this is interesting, the aging phase, I think, because with age, many people get more blissful. And we were talking about that yesterday, right?
Yeah.
Like we're, you know, all of us have a menopause, both men and women. And the women tend to get more testosterone and the men more estrogen. So we actually will level, you know, ourselves with each other by age. And I can get a very deep feeling of both curiosity and a lot of life in this person, and also a very kind heart. And there's this, you know, what I think is beautiful with aging is that the superficial things, you know, tends to have less impact on an aging person's life, and the core values like love and relationships. Maybe what's turning our creativity on is more focused on. So she has a very beautiful energy, I think. Yeah.
Yeah, I have to tell you the little story about this one. I think I had been doing for some time. I go to homes for elderly, and I show my pictures and talk about them. And so I have a little audience of about maybe 20 people, and it's always very, very rewarding. And this time, this lady, after I've showed my pictures, she just sort of grabbed my hand. She didn't say much or anything. I don't think she actually said anything. But as you say, she was a really warm person, and you can see that clearly in her eyes also. She had really appreciated this moment of being in the nature for a while. yeah, and apparently she really liked that moment, and I just had to take a picture of her. I think she's really lovely. Mm. And she's so full of hope as well. I mean, she's obviously old, but still full of energy and life and love, as you say. Fantastic. Mm. All right, so let's jump again.
Okay. And I really love this color scheme. It's orange, a little bit like a faded violet. There's like both a fire in the grass and a setting sun. I don't think this is a rising sun, but that's because of the colors, but I might be wrong. If it's fire in the grass, which I know it's probably not, but you know, it comes to my mind all these fires in the world that's been going on in the lungs of the earth, like Amazon and also Australia, you know, and what that does to us, because it's about breathing, and coronavirus is, you know, it's attacking the lungs especially. So for me, it's a little bit picture of that, but it's also, you know, like the light hiding behind the growing things. Everything that grows needs light, but also darkness. So we have that yin yang aspect again. I think it's a really beautiful picture with a quite high contrast, even though it's like an evening picture, or maybe dawn. But I don't feel like, I feel it's more like evening, sun setting.
Yes, it's a sunset, and it's taken in a field just outside of my house. So I like to do that. I like to not travel far, but to see the beauty where I am without traveling so much. And as you said, this is a high contrast picture. You could see the setting sun, the light behind all the dark hassle, or whatever you want to call it. It's taken a couple of years ago, but now when the sort of the world is on fire in different ways, I brought it back, and then I saw it more as a fire. There's something burning, and you can see the smoke, which is really not smoke. It's grass and other things in the field, but it looks like smoke, if you like. So this is on a picture reminding us of the situation on Earth right now, I would say.
Yeah, and that brings me to think like that we always mirror, you know, the actual happenings. Look at something. So it's like a pair of glasses we look through. And also there's this theory called the place attachment, environmental psychology, and we're talking about, you know, how we connect with places due to our upbringing or the memories we had on different places and how it gets charged. So if I look to this thing, I look at it through my glasses of my upbringing and the fields I have been running on as a kid. So if that lights something like a memory spark in me, I will love this picture much more, you know.
Yes.
So it's interesting how these things, you know, we're always looking through our own experience at things.
Yeah, and I have a short reflection on that as well. Obviously, when we see something like this, we look at it with our own filters or glasses. But I've noticed that I also take different kinds of pictures, very much depending on how I feel, what kind of mood I am in, so to speak. Even with the camera, you would think it's just me opening the shutter, letting the light come in, and that's it. But obviously, I perceive the scenery differently depending on my mood, which is natural. But I haven't thought about it so much until I started taking so much pictures, actually. So I see the world differently through the camera, depending on how I feel and how my mood is, which is interesting. Okay, what else?
Yeah, one of my favorite flowers. It's protected in Sweden at the moment. I don't know, blue something in English, blåsippa in Swedish. I think it's in Latin, it's Anemone pulsatilla, or it might be the white ones, but I think it's the blue one. When I was a kid, I had like a lot of aunts that were very elderly, and they had all made their herbarium, you know, as young, and they had all these pressed, you know, like dried flowers, and they knew every Latin word or name. So they taught me, they walked around, and I had to learn all these things. And sometimes it's popping up in my mind, you know, just the. And then I think, like, what's the deepening? If you know something, it's not just a blue flower, it's a species, and maybe you know more about it, maybe you know the environment it lives in or whatever. And that gives you a bigger connection with things, or plants, or birds, or animals, or trees. And I was working for a while in a zoological research station when I was young. And then I learned how to differentiate between bird sounds, you know. So it's not just, oh, it's a bird, it's this and this and that species. And suddenly the whole forest got, you know, like inhabited by personalities, more or less, you know. And that's the same with the plants or the flowers for me. Like I feel like if you know the names, if you know where they grow and it's a rarity or not, you know, you get like a different connection with it. I like the lilac color here. It also feels like a maybe more of an evening picture. So the color of the light, a little bit cold, still in spring as it is now. Yeah. Oh, it's really beautiful. And then, you know, when you have two instead of one, it's also that two persons, dialogue, balance. And it's beautifully put, you know, it's like also in a diagonal. So if we talk about composition rules, it's like following the diagonal, which is beautiful. And also the golden mean, if you would like to talk about that. And golden composition rule we have, yeah?
Yeah, okay, thank you, Maria. Again, this is a picture of life, flowers driving up towards the light in the spring. It's still cold, as I say, but the light is there and they're striving and growing, expanding up. I also like the perspective sort of from the backside or almost from beneath. Okay, next one. Oh yeah.
That's another composition rule also, or the same, the diagonal, you know. And this is quite interesting because when you talk about composition rules or painting or composing pictures, you always talk about the negative forms in a picture that will carry the positive form. So in here, the negative form is the sky around the objects. And I feel that's very interesting negative form here. almost more so than the positive form. It's a little bit phallic, and it's in the way you have showed it, you know, but also very interesting how we also, as you say, strive for the light, strive to grow, come up and join the others, you know. And now it's a tree. The others are trees. So it's funny thing. It's like this little underdog trying to reach up. So I think that's interesting. But what I like most in this is actually the negative space between the forms. It's really beautiful composition. And also it stresses if we, you know, if you sell ads in newspapers, it's always like the most expensive place is in the right lower side, because the eye goes from left down to the right, you know, when we read, it goes like shh. And if you were to see in an Arabic newspaper, it would be the other side. And that the left lower side would be the most expensive part to sell. But here, you know, you stress that really well. So it's yeah, it's interesting picture, I think.
Mm-hmm. Yep, again, a different perspective, striving up towards the sky.
Yeah, this is beautiful. It's like the water is not visible almost. You could just see it around the little stem coming up there. And it looks like a little, you know, like a little heart leaf of something, but I guess it's a lake, plant in lake or something. But it has something eternal over it, like Japanese ink painting or something. That's really beautiful. And then you have the mirroring above. If you took that away, the little
The little one. Yeah.
greenish flower leaf rosetta up there, it would be like totally different energy, but it's placing it very well like that. That's actually one of my favorites here in this little series. Beautiful. And it's about mirrorings, you know, I would say the shadows, what's in the light, what's in, you know, behind the veil. For me, it's very like feels also quite spiritual picture for me. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you. This is taken in Odensjön, which is quite a spiritual place as well. And yeah, I'm not sure what the English name of this.
Lake Odin, maybe.
Yeah,
Or you mean the plant?
I think about the
plant.
The plant again, and knowing plants by name. That struck me a bit when you talked about that. That makes a big difference. Like knowing people by name, it's also very different from not knowing them. So I'll look up what this is in English at least. The little green one on top there, I think is, as you said, it's almost the most interesting part in this picture. Well, there are many parts, but it's actually not the, it's a separate plant and it's beneath the surface. But in this picture, it looks like it sort of has just been released from the lower one and sort of let it out, so almost like a butterfly or something.
Like it's spirit flying over.
Yeah.
Like, so for me, it's really interesting. It would be really beautiful on a big print, you know, if you had like a poster or something.
Well, thank you. Time flies here. I think we need to wrap this up, actually. We could go on forever. I have a lot of pictures, so maybe we should do that.
Yeah.
But thank you very much, Maria, for joining me and for giving your view on these pictures.
Yeah, my pleasure.
Very very valuable feedback for me as well. So I hope you out there have enjoyed it as well as much as we have, and of course you will know you will be able to find our pictures where pictures are. Okay, so thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you.
Now, and well, thank you. See you soon again. So there, okay.